All right, so word on the street is it's your birthday, Matt, and I thought I could try to just tell you that I want you to be happy or that I think you're awesome or that I like you, but those are all just subjective. And I feel like for your 40th birthday, and I don't do subjective well, I do objective well. So I thought what we do is walk through how I do an online class here to prove to you that Matt, which is you in this is the coolest 40-year-old alive. Now, we're going to do this by what's called proof by contradiction. So this is where we assume that the opposite is true and then show that that leads us to a fundamental logical contradiction, and therefore our original assumption has to be true. So we're going to need a little math here first. So first of all, let's define a function c of x. So c of x, where x is a person, we're going to define c of x to be the coolness of some random person x. Then we're going to define a multivariate function because it's really some higher level math to try to prove these type of things. So f of x, y, that is going to be a binary true false function. It is true if and only if x is friends with person y. Okay. So then we can use this in some properties. When we're doing logical proofs, properties are usually things like two parallel lines never cross. It's just something that's fundamentally true about the universe that we can use then to prove more complex things. So we're going to call property one the fact that c of x is greater than c of y. So we're saying the coolness of some person x is greater than the coolness of some person y. That upside down a, that's for all. So we're going to say for all x of y such that f of xm and that line over that means not fym. So basically what we're saying here for property one is that the coolness of a person x is greater than the coolness of a person y for all x and y such that person x is friends with Matt while person y is not friends with Matt. Basically saying for anyone that you're cooler if you know Matt than if you don't know Matt, which is just one of those fundamental truths of the universe. I think it comes up in the Torah at some point. I'm not sure. All right, so then we're going to move on. Let's define some variables. So let's call let m equal Matt. We've already used that before, but we're also going to do c. C is going to be Chris. So we can use these as instances of people that we can feed these functions. So let's start. Let's assume our contradiction or opposite, right? So we're going to assume that Matt is not equal to 40, meaning that let's assume that c of m is not equal to the max of c of x for all possible x, meaning Matt is not the coolest of all people alive. Well, if that's true, then there exists a person P such that the C of P is greater than C of M. There's some person out there whose coolness exceeds that of Matt. I know it's strange, but we're going to go with it right now. So let's assume that is true. That's the opposite. Okay, well, we're going to introduce a new property that Matt is, and this is actually a real mathematical operator here. The triple greater is much greater than. So the coolness of Matt is much greater than the coolness of Chris. I played clarinet for half a year in sixth grade, and my greatest accomplishment was beating out Peter Lee. You can play Dream Theater songs, and you can build stuff, and I can sometimes make a chair not wobbly. So again, this is just one of those things that is fundamentally true about the universe. So now let's put in some variables into these functions. So f of m p is false, basically saying that Matt is not friends with the coolest person in the 40-year-old world. Because I feel like that is talk to Caitlin enough, talk to you enough. If you were friends and knew the coolest person in the world, that is something you would tell people. Therefore, since you don't, you must not be friends with the coolest person in the world. Now, on the other hand, f of MC, that is true. I am actually friends with Matt. If I'm not, then this is going to be a real depressing end to this, where you just call me up and say thanks for the video. We're not actually friends, but we're going to assume this is true because a lot of my logic hinges on this. Then we're going to use property one, right? Because by property one, since since f of MC is true and f of MP is false, then by property one, by definition, C of C is greater than C of P. By virtue of me knowing Matt and the other person not, because they are not friends, it is therefore fundamentally true that I am cooler than this person. However, by property two, we already know that Matt, the C of M, the coolness of Matt, is greater than C of P, the coolness, or C of C, the coolness of Chris. And by the transitive property, since C of M is greater than C of C and C of C is greater than C of P, it follows then that C of M is actually much greater than C of P. But this is where we come into a contradiction because that is the opposite of what we assumed. And so therefore we came to something that cannot be true under the assumption that Matt is not the coolest person in the alive. Therefore, it must be true that Matt is the coolest person alive. And so we're done. QED, quid erat demonstratum, that which was to be demonstrated has been so. So I hope that helps. If anyone has any questions about how great it is to be a 4-year-old and you need proof, feel free to pull this out, show it to them. I even let them know that I have undergraduates in mathematics, and I currently teach college level operations research. And so you are this is officially doctor approved verification of your status of the coolest 40-year-old in the world. Hope your birthday is the most awesome birthday in the world. And I wish I was there, but hopefully I'll be there for you 41st. I love you, man. Have a great birthday.